After some long deliberation, I have finally kind of decided how I feel about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3, The Long Night. So, this will be my, I guess, review slash discussion of this episode. And I feel very torn on this episode. This is the I've had this instance with a lot of movies, a lot of video games, never with Game of Thrones. I've never had an instance where I've wanted to love an episode of Game of Thrones very badly and not love it 100%. Very, very strange feeling for me. So let's just get some things out of the way. Was this episode too dark? Fuck yes. It was way too fucking dark. I went back and watched it for a second time, and even after cranking my brightness, my contrast, my black lighting on my TV, or whatever the fuck the dark settings were on my fucking TV, I don't fucking know. After cranking all that shit up in hopes that I was going to be a bit more visible, it was still super fucking dark. And I get it, it's a night battle. It's going to be dark, but I don't know, man. It comes a point where it doesn't serve quality to the viewer, and it's more of a distraction. And I get that it's cost effective and it helps with budgeting, and you don't have to, it helps you hide some of the movie magic and shit, so it's not as noticeable. But man, it just really took away from the whole thing. And after watching it twice and seeing it, it was touted to be this big grandiose battle, and not saying that it wasn't. It was fucking huge, but I felt like it just didn't have that same kind of gravitas that Battle of the Bastards did, or that the lake battle north of the wall did. There was just something off about it, and it had nothing to do with like the individual battles between characters when they were fighting the whites, or some of the other set pieces and stuff of individual characters doing their combat and their specific scenes. But there was just something that just didn't feel, I don't know. I think it was just because it was so dark, and you really couldn't see the White Walkers coming at you until they were at you. And maybe that's part of what they were going for, because they wanted it to be like, oh, you can't see them. They are the darkness. They are the night. They are death, and they are, gonna be on you at the last second. Maybe that's what they were going for, but if that's the case, I don't really understand how that really serves the purpose, or helps benefit the viewer that much, just from a viewing standpoint. This episode had some, regardless of it being very, very dark, this episode had some of the best cinematography I think I've ever seen in Game of Thrones. It was outstanding. Some of the scenery and some of the shots in this, from the Dothraki having all of their swords light up in just this huge fucking wave motion, to them charging across the field and Daenerys and Jon looking down from that hilltop, seeing them rush into the White Walkers. It was some of the scenes were fucking outstanding. The Whites coming over the Unsullied was out fucking standing. One of my favorite shots, and I have a lot of really cool shots that I really, really dug in this one. When the storm front comes through and Daenerys is just blasting fire, and you can just see the storm head behind her. That's a really fucking cool shot. That was so out, that done so much to lift the heaviness of that situation up more, and be like, oh fuck, this is really severe. Not to say that it wasn't already, but my favorite scene, shot wise, probably in this episode, was after Jon and Daenerys unseat the Night King from Viserion, and he lands on the ground, and after Daenerys has blasted him with fire, and he fucking dispels it because fucking Night King magic. There's this scene where he's walking to run towards Bran, and Jon is chasing after him, and the field is just lit up with fire. It's probably the most illuminated scene in the fucking episode, and it has I remember the first time I was watching this, I felt and I thought, I'm like, oh my God, this is like a fucking final boss stage set piece. They're gonna throw the fuck down. This is gonna be the fucking sword fight of the goddamn century. It's gonna be badass. It's gonna be fucking incredible. The scenery and the visuals and just the whole set piece together was something that I have never seen in Game of Thrones or in anything, just anything in general. It had such a unique set piece feel to it that it really felt like this is going to be a fucking arena where these two characters, these two pivotal pieces in the universe of Game of Thrones are gonna clash. And then they didn't. And then they fucking didn't. You know, I feel like at the end of the day, I'm okay with, you know, most of the story points that they did for this episode. Character death wise, I felt like more main characters should have died. It really seemed like a lot of main characters got by a little bit too safely, and that really kind of took away from it as well. It really upsets me that Jon and the Night King didn't have a battle together. I feel like that is the main thing that's really disappointing to me about this episode, is just the lack. It's not that Arya killed the Night King. You know, that was a fun, unique twist. They said that, you know, I still don't get their reasoning for this. I wish they would describe it a little bit better, but DB Weiss, Benioff, they were talking like in the behind the episode or whatever about that it didn't feel right for it to be Jon. And I don't get that, because it feels 100% right for it to be Jon, because it's been multiple seasons of build up, and Jon knows the Night King, aside from Bran, probably better than any other character in the show, and has more of a reason to combat him than probably anyone else. You know, you could still do it, and I'm not trying to say, you know, the writers did a poor job or anything like that. You know, I'm just a fucking fan. I can't really speak to the level of what they're doing, and, you know, they're probably going off of George R. R. Martin's you know, plot points and stuff. So who the fuck am I? I'm just a viewer. I'm just kind of spewing my thoughts about how I feel like it could have made more sense and held more emotional weight from the build-up that this series has created. It really feels like Jon and the Night King should have fought. I felt like that one scene where they were fucking standing off against each other was just the perfect set piece for them to just have this fucking nitty-gritty blood, mud, and steel fucking fight. And it would have been goddamn incredible. And, you know, there's a multitude of ways that you could have still had the same outcome. I'm not really trying to present an alternative for that. I just feel like having Jon, what did Jon do in this episode? What did Jon do in this episode? It really, I don't know, man. It's kind of really upsetting to me that Jon Snow, Aegon fucking Targaryen, the whole fucking series pivots around him, and the pivots around the interaction with the White Walkers and the Night King. For there to be no conflict between them just feels so strange and so off to me. It doesn't feel, I don't know. It doesn't feel satisfying. It wasn't rewarding. And I don't know, man. It just feels really upsetting that they didn't just clash swords at least once. There's another part that really kind of upsets me too with Jon, and to a lesser degree, not nearly as much as the whole thing with the Night King, but the scene where he's going up against Viserion was really fucking cool. I thought, you know, all right, Jon's not going to fight he's not going to be able to fight the Night King because he can't get to the Night King because there's an undead dragon in his way. That's completely understandable. Jon's going to fight this fucking dragon. And I felt like, you know, for a show that is medieval fantasy that stays away from a lot of the fantastical elements out there that has really plagued fantasy. And this might kind of sound hypocritical given my disposition on things. I like it that it's not so cliche, but it felt like it needed to be cliche in some moments in this episode. And it would have been really, I feel like it would have been redeeming for Jon in this episode. Just have him kill the fucking dragon. Instead, he just screams at it. And, maybe that's Jon just kind of reading the room and accepting that, hey, we're all completely fucked and we're going to die. And I think Miguel Sapochnik said that was a focal point for him going into this scene, was that going into the Arya killing the Night King scene, is that he wanted, before that happened, for the audience to just feel like, hey, you're completely fucked. They're all gonna die. It's not gonna go anybody's way. The Night King's gonna win. He wanted to have that kind of feel, and maybe that's what he was going for by having Jon just fucking scream at Viserion and accept his death because he doesn't want to try and fight back, which didn't make sense to me because he had a Valyrian steel sword and there was plenty of time for him to fucking ride up into Viserion's mouth or to fucking behead it. And that would have been a really fucking cool moment. That would have been an outstanding fucking moment for Jon to slay a dragon. That would have been a hero moment, a cliche, fantastical fucking moment. And would have helped alleviate a lot of the problems that I have with the Night King and Jon not fighting. So, and for them to not do that, it just really feels like they doubled down on Jon not doing anything in this episode. And for all these multiple seasons of build up, for the Night King and Jon's story to end that way just feels really unsatisfying. And that sucks. And it really fucking sucks. I don't know, man. This is the most upset I've been about a Game of Thrones episode, I think. It's I still like the episode, except for those glaring issues. The cinematography's fucking outstanding in it. It's very pleasing to watch in the scenes that are easy to watch, and that aren't just muddied with a mass of bodies and darkness. It's very, very difficult to see sometimes. Overall, I did enjoy the episode for the most part, in the sense that it was just relieving. It was relieving when Arya killed the Night King because my stress levels diminished so much to a point where it fucking brought me to tears, for real. But yeah, it's so strange to me that the direction they took this, and maybe the books would deviate and do it differently. Kind of seeing where they went with it now, I really hope that they do, because it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic of the show going forward. Because I knew in my mind that this was going to be the big battle, and that it was probably all going to be one episode. I'm not that upset that the battle only lasted one episode, but it still felt very strange to me that they were going to do the White Walkers then Cersei. Because it always felt like the show neglected the White Walkers until they became, until people realized, hey, they are the prominent threat. They are the thing that we need to be fucking focused on instead of all these politics. And so for the show to end off on the politics just kind of seems weird on the dynamic of how the show was structured from the previous seasons. I don't know. Maybe that's just a weird fucking nitpicky thing on me, but I don't know. It's very strange. None of this makes me hate Game of Thrones. As Melisandre says, prophecies are fickle things, and to tie into or to put much faith into the prophecies of Game of Thrones or the lore or the I guess a lot of the fan theories or speculations that have been out there for years is maybe a mistake on the fans' parts for getting too invested in things that seemed way too likely. And so maybe this was just an episode where no one was going to be satisfied with it. I don't fucking know. If I had to rate this episode out of 10, I'd probably give it like maybe a 6.5 or a 7, which is for me pretty fucking low, because I usually To me, it's like Game of Thrones fucking 10, 10, 10, 10. Don't know. Very strange episode for me. Very strange. Loved it. Hated some parts of it. I won't say a lot of parts. It was mostly just how dark it was and the stuff with Jon. But I don't know, man. Who knows how the story is going to unfold? There's 3 more episodes. Going to be a lot to happen in those 3 episodes. So we'll see how the dynamic goes. It's just kind of disappointing that these 2 fundamental building blocks of Game of Thrones didn't fight. It's really disappointing too. But anyways, that's going to be my thoughts on this, guys. Let me know what you think and what you liked and disliked about this episode. I'd be very interested to know what your all's thoughts and opinions are on this episode. It's pretty torn. I've seen a lot of people just saying, hey, this is the best thing that I've ever seen. It's better than Helm's Deep. And then people saying, what the fuck are you saying? Helm's Deep was visible. A lot of people are very upset about the lighting, and rightfully so. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.